Hello, passengers, and welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License with service to Detroit and the Cramblin Ad Agency. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember that while we aren't serving steak on tonight's flight, we are providing steak sauce, so you can show your friends your stains and say, I had steak on my flight. Because who would lie about having steak on a plane?
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by Rich Inman and Max Singer. How you boys doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I have updated my dream board and I am ready to talk about today's pilot.
Guys, I just got 2 words for you. Let's hustle.
Oh my gosh. Well, gentlemen, this week we are talking about the Detroiters. But before we do so, and before we get too in-depth, Max, can you tell folks what this podcast is all about?
Here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We learn more about how these shows came to be and were originally made. Sorry,
Boy, I really gave you the yips.
No, it's not that. I have the IMDb pilot page up for today's episode, and a giant pop-up ad for Lilo and Stitch just came up with Stitch like ripping through my computer screen. And that little blue bastard threw me for a loop. I'm sorry. Of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases infamous shows, we learn more about how these shows came to be and were originally made, if they're effective pilot episodes and making us want to watch more if they're made today. Go back and stream our old episodes from wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok to see our smiling faces. If it is your first time flying with us, then welcome aboard. Fuck you, Stitch.
Oh, mama.
Rich, what is your question of the week?
Well, I associate Detroiters with, I would say, like the end of like a golden era of Comedy Central originals, basically. We're talking South Side, we're talking oh my god, what's Abby and Alana's show's name again?
Broad City.
Thank
the
you.
other two.
The other two.
The Sarah Silverman Show.
Yeah. Do you guys have, what is your favorite show of that era? Like, what do you feel really speaks to you in the Comedy Central originals era?
I'm going to go back to what I just mentioned, the Sarah Silverman Show. It was such a unique show on that network. Like, I could mention Nick the Kroll Show, and I could mention Key and Peele as well as like amazing shows, but like the one that really just, holy shit, Chappelle Show. I think Chappelle Show was that moment, like, for all of pop culture, where we all went, wow, I need to see what the sketch was last night, because YouTube wasn't really a thing yet. And we all needed to see what was happening so that we could say, did you see the race, the race draft? Or did you see, like, did you see this sketch? Did you, like, there's so many quotable moments, and it was this one moment where we all went, holy shit, we saw the contract you got from Comedy Central, and then it all stopped. But I'm curious, Max, for you, what is that Comedy Central show?
So if we're talking specifically this era of like mid to late aughts with the live action stuff, it's got to be Broad City for me. Caveat, I have a real soft spot for the other two, but that only had one season on Comedy Central, and the rest of it was done on HBO Max.
Right.
So I feel like it didn't really get its legs until it got the budget from HBO. So Broad City, it is so indicative of this style of humor, this very like ragtag, we could take something from like the web or stage and blow it out into a full-scale half hour. I feel like it is so quotable still to this day. There are so many successful people who have come out of it. If you look at the involvements of people like Darcy Carden, if you look at the entire team from Hacks kind of coming from that show, it just feels like it set the tone for so much comedy that would follow a decade later in like bigger stages and bigger platforms. And I think it holds up still.
Yeah. For me, I gotta go with Max. I'm shocked that your show wasn't Mind of Mencia. We talk about Mind of Mencia all the time together. Shouldn't have done that while you were drinking something. So for me, Comedy Central originals really boil down to sketch, like non-SNL sketch for me. That's Chappelle's Show, Strangers with Candy. and I gotta go with my guys, Key and Peele. They just are so formative in how I view character written sketches and impressions, and just like taking a very small idea and really just like and just working it out. It is so Second City. And speaking of Detroiters, and this feels like it just felt very indicative of what the entire channel was about.
Well, Rich, thank you so much for that question of the week. Let's talk a little bit more about Detroiters. And we're going to start off with a quick synopsis. Lifelong friends, Tim and Sam, know they run the best ad agency in Detroit. They just have to convince everyone else, which, yeah,
That's cute.
that nails
I like
it.
that.
That's a really good synopsis. But, Max, I feel like a little bit more went into this show.
Today, we are talking about the pilot episode of Detroiters, which originally aired on February 7th, 2017 on Comedy Central. We're talking about the show's creators, Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson, a little bit. Princes of the comedy world, Robinson and Richardson met through the Wayne County improv community at Planet Ant Theater in Hamtramck, Michigan, and Second City, Detroit, where a 21-year-old Robinson was an 18-year-old Richardson's teacher. The two moved to Chicago and became company members at Second City and its touring company after college. From their time at Second City, Robinson was hired on Saturday Night Live as a writer and later a cast member, while Richardson moved to Los Angeles, landing roles in a variety of sitcoms. While at SNL, Robinson's writing partner was Zach Kanan, a former head writer of the Harvard Lampoon, who serves as the co-creator on today's episode, as well as the co-creator of I Think You Should Leave. Detroiters pilot is actually just like a massive early 10s SNL reunion. Its director is John Solomon, who wrote on the show for years and years and years, dating back to like 2006. He was the writer and creator of everything behind the MacGruber sketches and movie.
Nice.
You've got Steve Higgins, longtime writer and executive producer, appearing in this pilot as Eddie Champagne. Just a big old SNL reunion today. Despite dream gigs on Veep and SNL, the duo wanted the opportunity to create a show centered around their hometown of Detroit, shot on location. With an SNL boost from producers Lorne Michaels and Jason Sudeikis, the duo had the opportunity to do just that. Sudeikis encouraged Robinson to pitch a project for TV, and the duo was able to get the support of Comedy Central to shoot a pilot in June 2015. The show would be picked up later in 2016 with a 10-episode production order. Detroiters features numerous cast and crew members who are local Detroit hires, from crew members who worked on the actual local commercials the sitcom pays homage to even featuring legendary news anchor Mort Cribb as himself in a reoccurring role.
Oh, that's awesome.
Later episodes feature both actors and sports figures from Detroit, and Michiganders may catch blink if you miss it references to defunct businesses and Bob Seger's Light Moves Diet Tequila over the course of the show's run.
Oh my gosh. Well, you guys want to jump in?
I'm laughing at just the descriptions of the show. That's how good the show is. I love this.
So let's talk a little bit about this show in general. And I just want to start off with the intro to the show. I think it is light. I think it is exactly what this show needs, and it sets a really just good tone, maybe a little bit of a misdirect. But
Yeah.
I'm curious for you two. We don't get many intros right at the top of shows that we do. Instead, they're almost portions of it. What are you thinking about this one?
There's a pattern to Detroiters that is established in the immediate scene, immediately up top, where we're going to do a very normal mundane thing. We're going to say one line or do one action that indicates that this is about to take the hardest left turn. And the example up here is, do you think the water's too hot? And when we're shooting this Hot Tub King commercial, all we need to say is, do you think the water's too hot? And I immediately know what the style of humor is going to be. I know what to expect. I know where this joke is going. And all I'm doing is waiting on bated breath to see how it pays off.
Rich, before you even get into it, we love shows where someone is good at their job. We love it. It is one of your favorite things. But I think this is one of the first instances where we have two idiot savants who are really good at their job, but by no means in the most natural way.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're watching this for the first time, if you're watching this show for the first time, the closest thing I can compare this world building to is professional wrestling, where there's the concept of kayfabe, which is, yes, it is fake, but to the actors, it is real. And that is the world in which you have to exist in this, because there is something so off about so many parts of this of Detroit in this reality. Number one, that Eddie Champagne is okay after getting like kind of okay, mostly okay after getting boiling hot water poured on his face. And then turning around and saying, you guys are the ad kings of Detroit, when they are so clearly not. And there's just something very off, and it's very like it is very much the Comedy Central brand to do that.
Also, credit to Steve Higgins in this show, in this
Right.
episode, because he is so perfect as like a small business owner that like also there's going to be depth to him by the end of this episode that is just absolutely insane and
Not
wild.
normally a camera-facing guy either. That's like
No,
he's not,
no.
except on the Tonight Show. That's really, and even then, it's not all that frequent.
But I want to speak to the idea of absurdity in this show, because I think that that is one of the major themes of Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson, right? Is like an absurd sense of comedy that almost takes us back to like Abbott and Costello, right? But like even like turn it up to 11 and they'd be like, hey, chill out a little bit. This is too much.
Right.
And Max, I'm curious for you, like our first, while we get this ridiculous scene of the boiling water on Steve Higgins' character, I want to talk about the first instance where we really see the absurd comedy in this steakhouse, and seeing these two gentlemen try to make the pitch of a lifetime.
It's the exact same pattern, though. It is we pull the car up to the steakhouse and everything is normal. We're getting ready for lunch. We're changing our clothes. We're showing the close-ups of tie knots being brought up to their necks. Everything feels normal until it doesn't, which is when the bottle of steak sauce comes out. And I just like that Detroiters establishes these patterns, these rhythms early on that we know what to expect, that it's like normal, goofy thing that launches us into our next game, our
Right.
next scene, our next bit. And they play that rhythm so well. The other absurdity is, I guess, like the language of this world. Detroiters exists in a world where everyone kind of feels on the same level. Everyone speaks in the same lingo. I think about the exchange of talking to him is like talking to Bugs Bunny, and the actual like high status creative exec answering with, well, then you tell him what's up, Doc, very stone faced and serious.
Oh,
It's just fascinating how like everyone plays in the world. Everyone exists in the same world that they occupy. They're not wacky characters who exist in a different plane. Everyone's on this playing field.
It's all Kramers. Rich,
Yeah.
what are you feeling about this?
I mean, this is just like this steakhouse scene shows you everything that you need to know, in the sense that that Cramblin-Duvet advertising is going to be, what if the dumbest character from Mad Men got a hold of the keys of Sterling Cooper and somehow also got trapped in the office in 1960, and then was like slowly went insane up until 2015. This is like the absurdist answer to Mad Men, and I love that they picked that route.
Yeah, Rich, you definitely snuck a peek at my notes because I said
Oh,
this
really?
is Madman with nitrous gas. Like, this is literally like, what if we liked the idea of advertising as like this template, and then we just gave everyone way too much nitrous gas and said like go, because like Max, yeah, you talked about it. Everyone is in on the joke. There's no normal person in this pilot for the most part, at least based off of the pilot itself. And I want to talk a little bit about the plot of this, and not in the idea of I want to hyper focus on building a pitch for Chrysler, which is why is this day different than every other day? It's a big break opportunity for this advertising agency that was once great. I more so want to talk about, does the A plot really matter in this pilot? Because it's one of those interesting instances where, sure, we have our thing, but how much do we actually focus on the main thing throughout the pilot?
Yeah, I think what gets really addictive is their friendship, just the relationship between Tim and Sam, because ultimately, like, this, you would not want to watch this show that much if they like landed a big account in the pilot. You know what I mean? You don't want to see them have to level up their business. You want to keep seeing them like as a middling ad agency, and you don't really get to see like an ad agency of that level portrayed in media ever. And I'm like, but people are doing those jobs. It's like a fascinating way to like keep yourself in like the Detroit's not a top city, but we still think of ourselves that way kind of a thing.
Max, what about you?
Yeah, I think for me, to Rich's point, it's about the personal relationships, and it's about this game of everything being normal until the one weird thing gets sprinkled in there that takes it to an entirely new direction. And they play that to a T over and over and over. And so it's more about establishing beats and establishing a pattern that's going to be viable for every single episode. And I think they do a good job of just crafting this world. Like I said, there's so many local hires on this crew, so people who worked on the types of commercials that they're paying tribute to and help create the tone of those. Because yeah, that's business. Those are people's jobs and their livelihoods. You watch any TV network and you see local ads of varying success levels, and you have to think about, how would these guys do in 2025 if they had to be making TikToks for these companies and things like that? But yeah, it's a show about relationships through the lens of small market advertising.
And you do get something very unique here too with the absurdist nature of it, because there is not a single character, at least in this pilot. I can't speak to any of the other episodes. There's not a single straight man in any of these episodes, period, or in any part of this episode. The character of Carter Grant, played by Jason Sudeikis, keeps telling the exact same story over and over to everybody, which is like, okay, so he's also like batshit. Like there's no person, however powerful they are. The secretary Sheila, she's fucking crazy. Obviously Tim's dad, like Tim's girlfriend or wife, I can't remember, she's working and having like really horrific accidents happen at her factory job. Like it is like,
and she's telling it like water cooler talk. It's even beyond that. It's everyone who works at Cramblin-Duvet. It's Mort Cribb, the news anchor, who has no professional decorum in his broadcast. It's the bartender, it's the barflies, it's every single person exists in this world. And I think what separates Detroiters from the much more, I guess we'll call it successful, I Think You Should Leave, is that, and I Think You Should Leave, but that is a situation where you have someone who's like a bull in a china shop in every single scene. And this is, I think, a little bit more fleshed out in its characters, and everyone kind of exists in the weird, whereas I Think You Should Leave is defined by Tim and on occasion Sam or other person crashing a party and like really sticking out.
Yeah.
So I have this question, and it's sort of one of those things where Sam and Tim Robinson both truly, you can tell, love Detroit. They love where they are from. They love being from Michigan. And it is shown almost in this pilot, different shots of the city, the way they talk about different parts of the city, right? But I'm curious, for the two of you, do you think that Detroit is a feature of this episode, or do you think Detroit is a character of this episode? And if it's put in a good light, because we are seeing just a shitload of crazy people who happen to be from Detroit.
Yeah, they're not breaking the there's lead in the water in Detroit rumors.
Literally cheering on garbage men like at 2:00 in the morning.
That's the thing, though. It's like it's not like what Sex and the City does with New York. It's not like they don't treat it like a character in the script. They treat it like a character with the hiring. That's like by having like people who are local and like shooting this in Detroit and everything, like it feels so much more connected and so much more important, I would say, than like, you know, a lot of Chicago and New York shows are shot in Vancouver or something like that. It's not like you get increasingly less and less and less local hires with how the industry like changes and everything. This really felt like, no, we're making a show about Detroit. We're not going to shoot it on like the Paramount lot.
Max, what about you?
Well, it's yes, there are odd ducks in this show, but it's not showing anyone as destitute. It has this scrappy underdog mentality. It shows these people as like hardworking, salt of the earth, and we have each other's backs. And,
Yeah.
you know, the way that they go down to cheer on the garbage men as they head out for their day, and they all know each other. There's this sense of community, even if it's not, you know, your typical sense of community. It just shows that there's this real like emotional stakes to it, and that everyone's trying to lift each other up. And I think that's a really lovely thing to see in TV, this idea of like everything is almost punching up in a way. It's a very positive show in that way, which is really fun to see.
Yeah, and it's very, I think it's a very Midwestern attitude of like, oh, you know, the city got fucked over by the auto industry leaving. That's like, but you're not going to fuck us over as people. You're not like, we are more than like, we're sticking around. We're all going to have a community together. Like, and you know, if they talk about like gentrification of the city and stuff like that in future episodes. But it's like, you know, we're staying here. Our family's from here. Like, this is still our city. This is still like a major city. You know, put some respect to the name.
So, while we could definitely, I feel like, just talk about things we loved for this pilot the entire time, and we're going to. I want to give you guys the opportunity to maybe talk about a scene, a specific absurdist comedy that you were just like, holy shit, this had my attention and I was cracking up or I was giggling. Was there one that really you just want to highlight?
I mean,
go ahead, take it. Richard.
We're gonna have the same answer.
Are we?
I think so. I think the 2 beers hot or cold scene is one of the best jokes I've ever seen in a TV show. Period. I think about it all the time. The bartender asks Tim and Sam, who are trying to drown their sorrows in the fact that they didn't come up with a good idea for this Chrysler pitch. 2 beers, hot or cold? What? Cold? And then someone, and then cutting to a guy behind him blowing steam off a beer behind him. It is 14 seconds long. It is perfect. There is nothing better than that joke that I've ever seen.
And the button on that scene being if they want a doggy bag for their beers. Just the notion of getting beer pulled
That's
into
a terrible
paper bag.
idea.
Max, do you have one?
The catalyst of this idea of normal until it's not,
Right.
for me, is Tim and Sam finally coming up with an expert pitch for Chrysler. We finally see them be good at their jobs, and we immediately smash cut to them hitting Carter with their car in the parking lot of Chrysler. It is as high as you can play this rhythm, and it just gets bigger and bigger each time until we see them be so good at their jobs. We see them put together this personal and emotional and excellent idea for Chrysler. And the only people who could stop Tim and Sam from being good at their jobs are Tim and Sam.
Yep.
And that plays out in the biggest way in that scene. And all of the antics that follow once they have to figure out what to do with Carter are just hat on a hat. They're so hilarious. Like, it's just such big, broad comedy, but it stems from like the most beautiful, touching, normal scene you could have in this pilot.
Right.
Yeah. And for myself, I have to talk about what I call the Mad Men made famous like the Don Draper pause before the big idea happens. And when they have the pause of realizing the window can't break, and then they do it 3 times. It is one of my favorite the rule of 3s I've seen since we've done this podcast, because they do like they throw, I forget even what they throw, like first a stapler and then they pause and you're like thinking, and like I think Sam says something and I'm like, oh, this is when the idea comes, and they're like, no, fuck you, we're gonna do it again. And then it's like, oh, and then Tim pauses and you're like, oh, this is where the idea comes, and it's like, no, fuck you again. And then finally they break the window, and then when they throw the desk at the window and the desk just falls apart, I literally started crying. I was just like, this is because here's the beautiful thing about this. I'm going to take it back to the 90s, and the thing that I love about this pilot, and I know we'll talk about things we loved in a second, is that it's the closest thing I've seen to an ode to the movie Dumb and Dumber that's not too dumb, right? Like they get dumb and then they just are like, oh, we're going to extend the bit as long as it can go without you being like, okay, I'm tired. And then they move on to the next bit. And that is the greatest honor I can bestow upon a comedy, is like, you two have such great chemistry. And Rich, you said it, it's about the friendships, but also when you're with your friends, and I can speak to you two about this, you get dumb. You get real dumb really quick.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Friendship is about being an idiot next to someone and being really comfortable being an idiot next to someone. And this show perfectly encapsulates that. But as we're not going to talk about the plot of this pilot, because there really isn't one, I want to talk about things that we loved about this pilot. We talked a little bit about some of our favorite scenes, but were there any other things that you love about this pilot that maybe you want to give a little bit more shine?
Oh, boy. I mean, huge ups to Steve Higgins for doing that woman on top, monologue there. Because it is okay. So contextually, they leave the editing of the Eddie Champagne ad to their very young, but possibly intern, creative talent. And she makes basically an expose about how he feels lost in his marriage and feels like very sad all the time. They air the ad, it goes horribly, and basically just he has it out with his wife, and then they end up having sex, and they try for the first time woman on top. And there is just that beautiful line of like describing in detail why it worked so well for him, why it was such a great sexual position. And then
because she got hers, and then I was able to get what I need.
That's right. And then like we talked for hours in the hot tub. Her favorite TV show is Scandal. My favorite TV show is Scandal. And it's just like, it's such a beautiful bow on that episode. And I just like, what an incredible job from what a fucking insane person Steve Higgins is.
Max.
This show is full of so many blink and you miss it, or turn your head and you miss it moments. So on top of Rich's, I'm going to add, these are all of the index cards on Sam's dream board. So he removes Land Chrysler account and replaces it with woman on top at the top of his dream board. The other cards include Tokyo 2020, Lunch with Billy Crystal, Improve laser tag technology, Major League at Bat, Ice Bucket Challenge,
Jesus. Ride
Motorcycle, Catch Boomerang, Get Tim to Try Weed, and Black Belt.
Also, so he wanted to be in the Olympics? That's what Tokyo 2020 meant?
It's not established what that means, Rich.
Yeah.
But you didn't need to get so specific on the index cards that are barely shown in frame, but they take the time to hash out these details, and there's such fun little jokes in between the jokes. And I don't know, I think that this show just has so much fun, it has so much heart to it, and while it's known for obviously the antics of its two leads, there's like a whole nother layer below it that really fleshes out into something fun and beautiful to watch at times.
Yeah, and for myself, like, the details are amazing. I think that some of the jokes in this show, but for me, it's sure you have two people that are very passionate about something and they can bring their 100%, but it's so impressive when you can see people who are not regulars on a show come in and fully buy into it. Jason Sudeikis, Sam Richardson, and Tim Robinson all yelling at each other while Jason Sudeikis is sitting in a hospital bed at full volume. Like the sound guy was just like, Jesus Christ, I can't take it anymore. But that was 100% commitment. And what that tells me is that the people who work on this show are able to convey like, hey, buy in, fully let loose for just 10 minutes while we film this, and it's going to be a great take. And that is so fucking cool to see. Like, that is when you leave no crumbs in comedy. It's amazing. I am going to ask if either of you have any wait a minute moments. I have one, and I'm going to talk about it in a second, but I want to give you guys the opportunity.
I got nothing.
Max is looking at me like I have a fourth eye.
I mean, if we're going to talk about just a wait a minute, it's a positive wait a minute. It's just made me say wait a minute. Is the tangent that the Office pitch goes once they try 50-year-old speed pills.
Yeah,
and
the direction there is, it's so dark and it's so wild, and it just keeps going. Like, that rambling in The Office just keeps going. It is so long. It is so many beats.
Yeah, and my wait a minute moment is, I'm sad that this was only like a 24-minute pilot. I could have watched an hour of this. Like,
great news, there's 2 seasons.
A TV hour. We'll talk a little bit more about how many episodes there were, but boys, we got a last second ringer as far as an in-flight question. And this is a fun one. So Sam and Tim, first, this is from Caleb from Georgia. So first of all, thank you, Caleb. Sam and Tim are big fans of Detroit sports and seen at many of their sporting events. What city do you think needs brand ambassadors for their city's sports team? So I am going to ask you too. What city needs a Sam Richardson and Tim Robinson-like figure to just show up at the sporting events or cheer in LA and be the biggest city fans that they possibly can be?
Oh man, I mean, I'm trying to rack my brains. Like, so many guys in this world do ride or die for their teams. Like, we see Paul Rudd with the Kansas City Chiefs, the way we see like John Hamm with the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm trying to think.
We got. I was listening to a podcast where Stavros Halkias was a guest. He's a stand-up comedian, and I guess like his podcast is very popular. But he's become like the de facto celeb fan of the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah,
and he's just like this like balding fat stand-up, and he's just like he said in the podcast, it's like, yeah, dude, they gave me like a gun to wave on one of the games.
Yeah, they've got 4 mascots now: Edgar Allan Poe and Stavi.
I love that. And
he's just like, do you understand how easy it is to be a celebrity in Baltimore?
I love that Anne Hathaway is now becoming like this new burgeoning face for the New York Knicks, slowly but surely. She almost got run into by OG Anunoby, and now she's just showing up at different sporting events, and people are like, fuck yeah, Anne Hathaway, you be a very prominent celebrity fan of different sports teams.
Okay, I got one. And it brings me no pleasure to say that I am picking the city of Boston for this, but I need more Bill Burr on Jumbotrons.
Yes. I thought you were going to say Bill Simmons, and I was like, I got bad news, but I want less of him.
I mean, unless he wants to, bring us onto the ringer to do like, Paradise or Pitt season 2 recaps, in which case call us Bill Simmons. Bill Burr yelling at fans to get up on their feet, we need to chant defense at a Celtics game, or it's 3rd down and Bill Burr is screaming at you on the Jumbotron at a Pats game. We need some real anger in the crowd, and he's the guy to deliver it.
The South Park guys with the Colorado Avalanche. Like, there's a lot of opportunity. I gotta go. This is going to sound weird, and I don't even know how much he goes back there, but I would love to see Bill Hader be the de facto person for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I want to see him go back to his roots and give that a shot.
Yeah, get on your feet, Thunder fans.
First of all, I want to give all of the credit in the world to Brenda Song. Right now, because she is having a revolution as the sports fan of not only the Rams but the Lakers. More Brenda Song, like just as much as we can take. And I know that Macaulay Culkin is being a really good spouse and being like, you like that sports team, I'll go there and not give a shit, and that's awesome.
Yeah, they let her do the Rams schedule reveal.
Yeah, and it was dope as hell. Brenda Song, we want more of you. Come on the pod. But I am going to speak specifically to George Clooney being the big brand ambassador for the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes.
What?
Yes. George Clooney grew up in the Cincinnati area. His mom is very famous in the Cincinnati area.
Yeah, he's from like northern Kentucky.
Yeah, and I want to see known Bengals fan, but I want him to get the full-on treatment of holy shit. George
Cincinnati
Clooney
has so few celebrities that they're still hung up on Rosemary Clooney.
Oh, there's a gigantic mural of her in downtown Cincinnati, and it's
That's
really
awesome.
cool. So yeah, George, if you're listening, first of all, thank you for being a big fan.
Yeah.
But second of all,
We're blowing up in Lake Como right now.
yeah, the Italian metrics are going off the charts right now.
Ciao bellas.
Buongiorno. Or let me say that like Brad Pitt. Buongiorno. But yeah, I would love if we get more George Clooney just like walking up to a Cincinnati Reds game wearing a Pete Rose jersey and being like forever. But well, gentlemen, that is first. Thank you so much for that in-flight question. Let's talk a little bit more about Detroiters. So pretty short and sweet with this one. There were 2 seasons of the show and 20 episodes. The highest viewed episode was actually the premiere episode. Keep in mind, this is cable television, so 447,000 people watched the premiere, and it really dropped off from there as well. But this show has had a revival on things like Netflix and Hulu, and wherever you find it, you can find it right now on Netflix. Yeah, and I think you should leave. Really, people were like, "Where can I get more of these folks?" And boy, have they found it. I will say that after the show was canceled, Seth Meyers actually wrote an op-ed piece for the Vulture saying that he thought a major network should pick up this show and actually have it on primetime.
He was right.
He was right, but it didn't happen. And then as far as the show being shown elsewhere, it was also shown in Australia. And, I love to dream that
Detroiters.
If this show had a third
Get in here,
season,
we're watching Detroiters.
yeah, if this show had a third season, boy, would Sam and Tim be on them surfboards, similar to how they're both big, avid skaters. But, gentlemen, that is the history of the show. Rich, it is time for your game of the week.
All right, time for a couple Detroit fun facts. All right, the Fox Theater in Detroit is the second largest theater. Not amphitheater, not any of this outdoor bullshit. Second largest theater in the country behind what New York theater? Is it A, Radio City Music Hall, B, Eisenhower Hall Theater, C, Saratoga Springs Performing Arts Center, D, the New York Metropolitan Opera?
I'm going to go Saratoga Springs.
I'm going to say the Met Opera House.
It is Radio City Music Hall. However, all of those are about within like 1,000 people seating of each other. Did not know about the Eisenhower Hall Theater, which is basically at West Point. West Point's in New York, right? Yeah. That one seats like almost 5,000 people. It's crazy.
Dope as hell.
All right. So, which of these people have not been given the ceremonial key to the city of Detroit?
Fun.
All right. A, Big Sean. B, Elmo. C, Barry Sanders. D, Saddam Hussein.
You know what? I'm going to say Barry Sanders. He retired too young. He could have done so much more for the city.
People are holding a goddamn grudge against Barry Sanders for sure. And if that's not correct, I think it's Elmo.
I am truly shocked that you guys both got this right. When I heard that Saddam Hussein has got the key to the city of Detroit in the 80s, I was truly stunned.
Do you know
why Big Sean?
Do you know why? Like, was it like sister cities that they do sometimes?
I think
it
was like maybe Baghdad's a sister city for Detroit or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, also he's in Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah.
He is?
No.
I don't know. People could be in anything. O.J. Simpson was huge for a long time. Like,
yeah. And what keys does he have?
Well, Rich,
not the one you don't know about those keys anymore.
Rich, thank you so much for your game of the week. Gentlemen, our flight is coming to a land. But before we go, I have 2 questions for each of you. And one is based off the pilot and the pilot alone. I'm going to be really surprised if either of you say no, but are you going to watch more of this show?
Yeah, fuck this.
And then...
I'm not watching it for the 7th time. And
then the second question sort of goes off of what Max is speaking of. And it's the idea of I Think You Should Leave does exist. There is another season, hopefully, coming out sooner rather than later. But you know, that's very different than the Detroiters, and it's far and few in between. So, do you think a show like Detroiters or Sam and Tim deserve to have a third season show up somewhere, so that they can do more long form, universe based comedy?
So what Tim Robinson is working on right now, and in addition to hopefully the next season of I Think You Should Leave, because obviously that deserves to keep running forever, is this new show, The Chair Company, with his co-creator Zach Kanan. And I really do hope that there is a lot of Sam Richardson involved. I just can't get enough of their friendship in general. And yeah, I mean, obviously I'm watching more of the show. You're going to be hard pressed to find anyone who's a comedy fan who doesn't love this. I think it's such a shame that in the moment we couldn't have found more love for Detroiters, but things have second and third lives, so I hope they get more opportunities. I just love what he writes.
Max?
I mean, it's an easy yes for me. This is a slam dunk. I think that I've been a proponent on this podcast of actual character-driven sitcoms, and this hits that on the head so clearly. I think that it has such heart, such established friendship. I think that these characters are defined, and it makes me want to follow them in new directions. It did not get the love that Southside did or the other two got with moves to HBO Max. It does not have the accessibility of a Broad City. A lot of the show was kind of buried on Paramount Plus and didn't quite get the same streaming love as its cohorts at the time. People are coming around on that. That's successful. Yes, I would like to see that third season, though. While these two are doing so well on their own, they are both Emmy winners at this point. I want to see what happens if we go back to the well now that there is probably a little more funding, now that we can get that budget up there, now that they're a little more established in their careers. This is a show that actually deserves a revival and a chance to do one more season to put a neat little bow on it. And I don't know, I hope and pray to the comedy gods and to Bob Seger that we could get a third season.
So I have a surprise for you two gentlemen. This is the first time I've ever watched Detroiters, and I am going to absolutely be slamming down the 19 other episodes of this show.
As you should.
Text me every joke that makes you laugh.
Yeah, no,
please.
literally, I'm just going to be
Blow this group chat up.
You guys know the one about this, and you're going to be like, oh, fuck yeah. My guy.
Watched it 17 times.
Yeah, this show hits what I need from a comedy, which is just you feel good leaving it. There, for some reason, I don't know who in Hollywood decided, hey, at the end of the comedy that you're watching, something has to go wrong and you can't feel good about what happened in that show. Silicon Valley, I'm calling you out because Jesus Christ, was that your calling card? But I love the tone of the show. I love that at the end of the episode, we were exactly back where we started with two best friends, remaining best friends and neighbors. I think that as far as getting a third season, holy shit, I hope I end the 20th episode and I'm like, fuck yeah, I want more, because this is something that we don't really have much of out there. And yeah, these two guys are super busy, and I love following them on Instagram, and I love seeing what they're doing. And I feel like I'm a proud mom at the back of the auditorium. I'm like, fuck yeah, sweetie, you're killing it right now. And I hope that there is a brief moment where someone goes to them and says hey, did you have a third season idea? Can we make it? Can we put it on our network or on Netflix or whatever? And then we can close any loose ends that you thought you left. Because sometimes you get those opportunities when you get big enough. And I think we're about at that time where both of these fine actors, comedians deserve that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Well, gentlemen, that was our flight. But before we go, I want to make sure that both of you have the opportunity to tell folks where they can find you. Max, where can folks find you?
Here come the trucks. You can find me on all things social media at Maxwell Singh.
Whoa. You can find me being talking to Bugs Bunny on Instagram, and you can find original sketch comedy from Max and myself over on TikTok at Dadwagon Comedy.
And you can find me trying to figure out the mechanics of a beer in a doggy bag. But if you're looking for me on social media, you can find me at Run Jeff Run. If you're looking for the TV Pilot's License, make sure to like, subscribe, leave comments wherever you listen to us. It really does help us out as we're a growing podcast and have big ideas for fun things for y'all. But if you're looking for us on YouTube, you can also find us at TV Pilot's License, and we're on all non-banned social media platforms, or for the most part. If you want to submit an in-flight question like Caleb, you can do that at tvpilotslicense.com. You can also give us a call or shoot us a text with those questions to 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for sneak previews of some of the stuff that we have coming up. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you soon. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and your fingers on the dial.
Then you tell him what's up, Doc.